Hi, my name is Barbara Gabogrecan, and I'm here to share my story with you about how being a single mum, looking after a semi-invalid mother, and being retrenched, I was still able to be a successful entrepreneur. I had no capital, no business skills, and did not know how successful my product would be. Within 12 months I was successful, due to persistence, perspiration and passion. Above all, I was opportunistic and took action. I never said no, but rather how. But our topic tonight is fame and fortune. So I said to Roy, I'll talk about the fame, you talk about the fortune. But it's an interesting concept because to get fame, you have to get recognition. If you get the fame from that recognition, it actually gives you power to leverage that fame to make the fortune. And if you think you can go out and make a fortune without getting any sort of recognition, I think you might be disappointed because you need that recognition. So how did I get the recognition quickly? Well, from the time I started doing painting directly on silk, and I was an art teacher, so that wasn't hard to do for me, but I also realised that you can't make money as an artist doing exhibitions. You have to produce product with your artwork. So I went from that point immediately. The only growth area in Australia at the time was the tourism area, and tourism are looking for something lightweight, something cost effective and something Australiana, and I covered all of that. So I fell into the gap very readily and easily. And my first big order, which was about 8 months after I started, was Myers. And I mean big order, $100,000 order with the first time they spoke to me. And I'm not joking, I didn't know exactly how much, I just sat there and wrote down everything. I then decided I'd go and have a cup of coffee and work it out with a calculator. And when I got up to 100,000, I thought, oh, I've hit the wrong keys. So I started again and did it all over again. And I thought, here's 100,000, and I'm not joking. I then went to the loo and I vomited. I got such a shock because I was a home-based business. I then rang the accountant husband-to-be, who wasn't as yet my husband, and I don't think he believed me, but we immediately had to figure out how to do this. Now, the interesting thing is, and I think you all need to be aware of this, I was not only a home-based business, I was a new home-based business. So I didn't have a lot of business skills, I just knew my product. And who was I dealing with? Big business, Myers. So there was Myers and me. So how did I manage to get them to purchase my product? First of all, I had to come across as very professional. I actually had systems in place, so I gave them my trading terms as soon as we decided to go ahead. And he looked at the trading terms and he sort of smiled and said, Barbara, you have to follow our trading terms. I thought, oh, okay. But then I found it was important not to panic, but to think to myself, okay, I've got to be flexible, but I've also got to be able to negotiate. So please don't, these words I'm throwing at you are terribly important. If you're taking notes, write them down because it really makes a difference. So I decided in talking to them, how could I negotiate? For instance, here are some of their regulations that they had at the time. When you send the product, it comes to a receiving dock. They have a computer there. If your goods arrive one day early or one day late, they're sent back to you, and at your expense. You have to be there at the moment the computer says you're supposed to be there. And remember, I had a $100,000 order, I had this enormous order. So the first thing I decided to do was negotiate, and I said, look, this is hand-painted product. It's not as though I'm going to go out and buy it and on-sell it. So I want to break my order up into smaller units and deliver it at different times. So that helped me get the finished product out there at particular times. And they agreed. There was no problem with that. I then asked, from the receiving dock point of view, I wanted the name of the person in charge of the receiving docks in every state, because I was selling in every state to Myers, so that if I knew I was going to be delayed by a day or two, I'd ring them, and I arranged that I could do this, ring them and tell them I needed the date changed by 1 or 2 days. And they agreed. I never had to do it, by the way, but they agreed. So I immediately felt more comfortable. There was a safety net there. Then I had this weird thing of how they would pay you. You could agree to 7 days, 14 days or 30 days. If they paid you in 7 days, you had to give them a 7.5% discount. If they paid you in 14 days, you had to give them a 5% discount. if they paid you in 30 days, and keep in mind 30 days actually means 60 days, you still had to give them a 3% discount. So I thought, well, a big company can't turn a cheque around in 7 days, and I don't want to wait 60 days, so I went for the 14 days. And I was prepared to put that 7% in. Now here's where the real thing happened that saved me. The guy I was speaking to said, go home and redo your prices so that they cover these extra costs that you didn't have when you quoted us the prices. So with Peter's help, he's an accountant, we made sure we only increased the prices by those extra costs. So we didn't put another penny in our pocket, and they can tell, they're not silly, they know if you're trying to fleece them by asking too much. So we did that. Now with the payment, once they missed the 14-day deadline, but they took the discount out. So I sent them a letter and said, you've taken the discount out, but you missed the deadline. So they refunded me the money. If I hadn't said anything, nothing would have happened. So you have to be aware of what your negotiated terms are and keep an eye on them. So in the end, if you're going to negotiate with big business, you've got to make sure that both of you are winners, but particularly you've got to feel or make them feel as though they're winners, because they want their egos patted. And if you can't do that, you might as well not even try to deal with big business. You really might, because they don't like dealing with little people, because little people carry on and won't be flexible. The other thing that helped me with recognition, I mean that sort of recognition, can you imagine, in all those major stores of Myers around Australia, was the Grundy Association. This was my first incident with TV. They contacted me and they purchased 10 of my paintings. Now, I do have a painting in the car and I didn't bring it up because I had it for this morning. Didn't need it, but I had it. But they wanted 10 paintings for Sale of the Century and Wheel of Fortune. Now, they actually pay you a fee for it, then they charge you for the models and the photography and everything. So you really get nothing. But what I asked for was, when you photograph it, you have to hone in on my signature. And I made my signature like a logo. And so nobody can say Gabogrecan. No one can remember it, but everyone can recognise it. And the number of people I'd have ring me up saying, oh, someone's pinched your ideas. They hadn't. I mean, I painted a Rosella and so did they, but that was the end of it. You know, they weren't pinching my ideas at all, just using Australiana. But people were aware. So from that recognition came the fame, because I was then covered in a lot of media as well. Now, how do you generate the best deals? Again, it's negotiation. I can't stress that enough. Negotiate, negotiate. Don't be scared to negotiate. But if you don't think you can do it, get someone like me or Brenda or someone to go along with you. Keep your ears open. They'll keep their ears open and help you with that. I've done that for a number of people. So when I was asked would I license my product, I had 16 licenses. The Shelter was the first one, and they offered me 5%. Actually, I think they offered me a bit less, but most of the others offered me 5%. And I said no. And they said, why? I said, I've just won 7 of the Australian Gift of the Year awards. I have been written up in Women's Day and New Idea. I have a name, and if you want to take advantage of that name, I want 10%. And I got it. And I found out later, because they had previously had Ken Doan as one of their licenses early in his life, they said he didn't get 10%. And I said, yeah, but he wasn't famous. I am. So, you see, he is now, and he outstrips me by a long shot. That's not the point. The point is what you believe you are. I know that I'm well known, so I promote that, and I use that. You know this tall poppy syndrome? You know where it comes from? Yourself. You put yourself down. You don't tell people how good you are, and you hope if they find out they won't say anything. You've got to be out there and prove it. So after I'd done all this recognition bit, I then decided, and I don't even know how come this happened, but I went to government, mainly because government was supporting tourism, and I decided to go to some of their seminars to upskill, and they then offered to take my work to some of those overseas exhibitions Brenda read out to you. Birmingham, Osaka, Nagoya. Different person took it to Dusseldorf. A lady in the room here took it to Saudi Arabia. So I saw Jordan. Which one? Jordan, wasn't it? And took my work to Jordan. So all of a sudden, I have an international, not great, but guess how important it is back in Australia to say you have an international flavour, background, whatever it is you're doing. If there was a trade mission in Australia, Austrade automatically rang me, automatically. And I'll tell you this little story because it's important if you ever deal with Asians, and I think will probably tell you this too. It was a Korean trade mission. There were 3 gentlemen. One of them was very young. And to Asian people, the business card is very, very important. It's an extension of themselves. So when you give a business card, you use 2 hands, you have it turned the right way so they can read it, and if you're getting one, you read it, and you don't just shove it in your pocket or your bag or whatever, especially if you're sitting there and talking, you put it there where you can look at it and look at the person. So business cards are very important, and this young guy couldn't find his business card. And I'm not joking, everyone stood there in dead silence. He went through his briefcase, he went through his pockets, he went through his wallet, and this went on, I guarantee, for 5 minutes. Maybe it was only 2, but it seemed like 5 minutes. And in the end, I couldn't stand it anymore. I took out one of my business cards and turned it over so it had a blank side and said, look, don't worry, I don't mind at all, please write your details here for me. I was told later by Austrade that that saved the whole trade mission because they were going to send that guy home that night. And if I hadn't thought quick, I mean it wasn't quick enough, but I got desperate in the end, you know, you really have to think when you're dealing with other people. Now, having worked with government, I then was asked to mentor 2 people coming off the NICE scheme. Do you all know what the NICE scheme is, right? If you're not sure, you can get the dole while you get your business up and running for 12 months. So that's the only money you can really get from the government for start-up businesses. And I realised in mentoring these 2 women that there was a need for something else. And I actually said to them, I'll find a network that suits you, that you can actually network with each other. And I actually couldn't find one that I thought was suitable. So I created the Micro Business Network. I took the word micro, I defined it as employing less than 5. And I think it took me 5 years, I had 20,000 people from around Australia. But at the end of the first year, the Howard government came in the following year, and guess what? They created the Micro Business Consultative Group, took the same word micro, gave it the same definition. One day I'll find out if they pinched my idea. I don't know, nor do I care, because they appointed me to that committee. And every time government mentioned Micro Business Network, it was the name of my business. So it really didn't matter. I got publicity galore just for that. So from having sat on that committee and government realising I had something to say that was sensible, to the point, and I wasn't what my brother calls rednecks. I wasn't running around and sort of yelling and screaming. I was being sensible about it. I was then invited over the next few years to sit on another 6 committees. I currently sit on the Australian Tax Office Cash Economy Task Force. And the reason I do this is A, so government knows about me. Remember the fame bit, branding yourself, but also so I can be a voice for the home-based business people to make sure that our leaders who make the rules and regulations that are going to affect us won't totally ignore and put in things that are going to disadvantage you. So that's my purpose, if you like, my goal of being on these government committees. It adds to my credibility and it allows me to share knowledge and give back to the community. I've got 2 more things. How am I going with time? Yep, actually I'll go through this fairly quickly. Networking. Everyone does it. But how many do it successfully? There are 3 things to remember when you network, if you want it to be really successful. Follow up, follow up, follow up. And if you don't do that, you're wasting your time. So the people here that have collected business cards, if you don't go home and contact any of them, you've just come here to socialise and have a good time, and I'm thankful you did that. But if you want to make networking work for you, you go home and ring some of those people up. You certainly build a database. Everyone networks. Shelter networked with Laurentino for my product. They actually shared the fabric. So later, if you look at the umbrella and look at the little bag, it's exactly the same fabric. They shared the cost, had the fabric printed, divided in half. You make umbrellas, I'll make bags. Excuse me. So that's how they were networking. Laurentino then referred me on to Fresca Scarves. That's a Fresca scarf there. And I forget the name of the company because they're out of business now, Hollingworth or something like that, for men's ties. There's a men's tie there. So this were all referrals, and this is part of networking. You meet the right people in networking, they like you, they like what you do, they know what you do, they refer you to someone else. And I've already heard tonight, some of you are thinking of referring yourselves on to other people. That's good. In MCI, we actually have one member has given a referral to another one, which has resulted in an $80,000 contract. So MCI mightn't be the biggest organisation and association around in Melbourne, but it's certainly a proactive one, and it's certainly one that you ought to join if you're not already a member, because we do get results. Joint ventures is another thing that we do together. I had a meeting this afternoon with another member, and we might create a joint venture. We're certainly going to the big guys and say, we've got this idea, are you interested? And with his skills and my skills, keep this in mind. When you're looking to match skills that are different, not the same. So if you've got a skill in something, try and match it with someone who's got a skill in something else, but you've both got a sort of a general theme that you can work towards. And don't be precious, don't be secretive, don't be scared that they're going to stab you in the back or take advantage of you or pinch your idea or whatever. So what? Life's life, it happens. But if you don't do it, nothing good will happen either. Perhaps nothing bad will, but nothing good will either. So I have actually begun 6 joint ventures with different members of the network this year. Already, 6. Now if only one of them happens, and I'll tell you what one did this week. He sent out information about MCI and me to 5,500 people on his database. Now, you know, I haven't got 5,500, I've got about 2,500. So there's 5,500 more people that now know about me and MCI. That's how you do it. The last thing I want to talk about is marketing. Remember this, no marketing, no fame, and no fortune. That's how it'll happen. If you don't market yourself, you won't get the recognition and the fame. If you don't get that, you won't make a fortune. So you have to mix the 3 together. It's called branding yourself as well as your product and service. You've got to create the image, if you like. And how did I do it? Well, basically, as I've just told you, through awards. Winning those 7 Gift of the Year awards got me 16 licenses and 7 overseas placements of my work. Awards, people tend to think they're not good enough to enter. The reason why I entered the awards was because I heard that Jenny Key, who I admired, was going to present them, and I wanted to meet her. And I thought, well, at least I'll meet her because we'll all mix together, you know, at a cocktail function or something. And it actually got embarrassing because the first time, congratulations, Barbara. I thought, oh, this is wonderful. Second time, congratulations, Barbara. Third time, congratulations, Barbara. Fourth time, not you again, congratulations. She was absolutely incredible. I'm sure everybody thought I'd somehow manipulated it. But one of this is how you can manipulate things, is the word I'm looking for, that you can make things happen for you. One of the sections I wanted to enter was the best coordinated range, which this autumn gum was. You know, this was before we had the printing done, all handmade, but or hand painted, but it was a coordinated range. And you had to have 5 things in the coordinated range, and I only had 4. I'm thinking, fifth, what'll I do? And I happened to meet somebody who was making jewellery. They had findings, circular little pieces that they put something on and put a piece of gold thing around it, put it on a chain, and there was a pendant. So I bought 3 of these, and I literally glued some silk onto some white paper and stuck that onto these, and I made a pair of earrings and the pendant on just a plain wire band. Found this lovely little case that opened up like 2 little doors and put it in that. So I had my 5 pieces, and I won the coordinated range, but guess what else I won? The best jewellery. I had all these people ringing me about jewellery, and I didn't make jewellery. So that was a bit embarrassing, but it just goes to show sometimes you think a bit outside the square and other things will begin to happen. Now the last thing I've got to say, and I'm actually, according to Peter up there telling me the time, I've still got 5 minutes and I'm going to finish early, so that leaves you more time, right? I'm concerned that people seem to be a bit afraid of giving away things, giving away freebies. That is one of the techniques, I suppose, or tactics, whatever you want to call it, that I find really works well. I do it all the time. If you're on my mailing list, you're always getting things. What did we just do with the treasure hunt? Hand up those here that entered and played the treasure hunt game. Okay, you know we had $145,000 worth of product donated by micro and home-based businesses. When we got to 45,000, I thought, this is unbelievable. When we got to 65,000, I said, guess what's happening, Peter? All these people are helping. When it got to 145,000, I said, add it up for me. It must be wrong. You know, me and maths, not good. That was fantastic, and we got a database, and everyone's got that database. Won't be of any use to anybody if we don't use it, by the way. You've got to use it, and you've got to use it in a very user-friendly way. So giving away things is important. Hand up if you've got an ad in the Yellow Pages. 2 or 3. Hand up if you've at any time placed an ad in the newspaper or on radio. Right. All of those ads cost you some hundreds, sometimes thousands. And yet, you come to an MCI event perhaps, and you've got, if you're a member, you've got a guest pass that you can bring one client along free, and that client doesn't know they're free, and you are actually giving them a free present. Come along, listen to whatever's happening, great group, you'll have fun. You sort of act nearly, and I'm talking about you particularly, I'm talking about everybody that's little in business, nearly afraid as though people will make fun of them or think you're trying to twist their arm to do something they don't want to do or something. But this is how I have moved forward. I'm always giving freebies, and you'll see Peter has, because I twisted his arm, in your business bag things, he's offering not only a free come along and hear a seminar on Thursday, we know it's pretty short notice, Thursday night free, he's giving everybody who goes with him, because he wants 4 or 5 people to go with him, he's giving them a $10 voucher that they can claim at Caltex or Woolworths, Safeways, whatever. So he's actually, if you like, paying them to go, but what he's really doing is thanking them for going. So it depends how you think. So if you're at all interested, look on the thing, give him a ring, he'll tell you where it's at, and meet him there. It could be interesting. It's about how to make more income. We all want to do that. So remember, recognition leads to fame, and fame leads to fortune, and this will follow as surely as Roy Hardman is going to follow me. Thank you.